Daniel Vance is a historian who loves old, forgotten things. One day, he buys a 200-year-old Ouija board at an estate sale. But when he uses it, the board does not spell out names. Instead, it draws maps. Daniel follows the first map and finds a buried body. Terrified but curious, he follows more maps, finding another body at each spot. When he connects all the locations on a map of his town, his blood runs cold. The locations form a perfect spiral. The spiral is spinning inward, and the final point is not a park or a forest. It is his own house. The board is not showing him old murders. It is planning a new one. Daniel Vance loved old things. His house was full of yellow books, rusty keys, and ancient papers. He worked as a historian in a small, quiet town by the river. For Daniel, the past was safe. The dead could not hurt anyone. But one rainy Saturday, everything changed. Daniel went to an estate sale at an old mansion. In a dark corner of the attic, he found a wooden box. Inside was a very old Ouija board. The wood was dark and heavy, and the pointer was made of bone. Unlike other boards, this one had no letters or numbers. The board was completely blank, except for a small hole in the middle of the bone pointer. Daniel felt a strange chill when he touched it, but he bought it anyway. That night, the rain beat hard against his study window. Daniel sat at his wooden desk. He took out the board and placed a clean sheet of white paper under the bone pointer. He put a small piece of black charcoal inside the hole of the pointer. Daniel smiled and asked a simple question, "Is anyone here?" He placed his fingers lightly on the bone pointer. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then, the pointer began to move. It did not slide from side to side. It moved in smooth, clean strokes, like a hand holding a pencil. The charcoal left dark lines on the paper. When the pointer stopped, Daniel lifted it. He stared in surprise. It was not a word. It was a drawing. It was a simple map of the local park. In the middle of the park, under a large oak tree, the charcoal had drawn a small, dark X. Daniel laughed. He thought it was a joke from the past. But he could not stop thinking about the X. The next morning, he grabbed a shovel and walked to the park. The air was cold and damp. He stood under the big oak tree and began to dig. After 2 feet, his shovel hit something hard. He brushed the wet dirt away. It was a human skull. Daniel screamed and fell backward. He called the police immediately. The officers dug up the rest of the skeleton. They told Daniel the body had been there for 20 years. Daniel did not tell them about the wooden board. He was too afraid they would think he was crazy. When Daniel returned home, his hands were shaking. He sat at his desk and stared at the dark wood of the board. The mystery was pulling him in. He placed a new sheet of paper under the pointer and asked, "Who did this?" The pointer moved immediately. It drew a second map. This one was a map of the forest behind the local library. The X was marked near an old, abandoned stone well. That afternoon, Daniel walked into the dark forest. He did not bring a shovel this time. He only brought a flashlight. He found the old stone well and shined his light down into the dark water. Deep at the bottom, he saw the pale outline of a hand. Daniel ran back to his house. His heart was beating like a drum. He knew he should destroy the board, but he could not look away. He had to know the truth. On the third night, Daniel took a large map of his town and pinned it to the wall. He marked the oak tree and the stone well with red ink. Then, He used the board again. It drew a third map, leading to a dark cellar under a ruined bridge. Daniel did not go there. Instead, he just marked the bridge on his wall map with a third red pin. Daniel looked at the 3 red pins on the wall. He took a black marker and drew a line connecting them. The line was curved. It looked like the beginning of a spiral. With sweating hands, Daniel placed a final sheet of paper on the desk. He asked the board the ultimate question: where does this end? The pointer moved slower this time. The charcoal scraped loudly against the paper. The pointer spun in a slow, perfect circle, drawing a tight spiral. It curved closer and closer to the center of the paper, until it stopped with a sharp, heavy dot. Daniel took the new drawing and held it up against his town map on the wall. He aligned the borders. The spiral fit perfectly over the streets of his town. The red pin sat exactly on the curved line. Daniel tracked the line as it spun inward. It passed the park. It passed the forest. It passed the bridge. It kept spiraling closer and closer to the very center of the town. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. He looked at the final dot at the center of the spiral. It was not a public building. It was not an old street. The dot was sitting exactly on his own address. The final location was his own house. Suddenly, the room felt ice cold. Daniel looked down at his desk. His hands were not on the bone pointer, but the pointer was moving. It was moving on its own. The pointer dragged the charcoal across the paper, drawing a straight line from the center dot to the edge. It looked like a knife cutting through the page. Then, Daniel heard a sound. It was soft, but clear. Downstairs, the heavy wooden front door of his house slowly creaked open. Footsteps, heavy and wet, began to walk up the stairs.